share with you some of the things that have been on our hearts and on our minds over the last couple years. A few logistics. Our bathrooms are right through these double doors over here. We brought some crust cookies. So please help yourself to one. There's also coffee and tea. There are boards in the back, which you may have seen as you came in. And there'll be time after the service, that's what I'm used to leading, after this lovely meeting that's not a service, for us to continue to meet around the boards and answer some more questions. So I want to share with you a little bit of how we got here tonight. St. Ambrose, our church, it was founded in 1951. And we've been a pillar of the religious community here in Claremont since then. And like many of the mainline congregations, we know that the future of church is looking different. It's going to be different than it has been in the last 2 generations. And we know that this is true also for our city. We're in a changing city. And whether the change is positive or negative, change is pretty challenging for us all. So as a spiritual community, St. Ambrose, we did what spiritual communities are at least supposed to do. We prayed and we listened, and we found a way to embrace our changing landscape and adapt how we live out our mission, which is, to put most basically, our mission is to love God and love our neighbors. So for the last several years, our congregation has been discerning what God is calling us to next. And we realized that we're sitting on an underutilized piece of land. And we're in the midst of a housing crisis. The needs of our neighbors and our passion for serving and the assets that we currently have brought us to discern that God was calling us into the ministry of developing affordable housing. And then it took several years of many, many meetings and reflection and lots of prayer and conversation to figure out how we were going to go about this. About 2 years ago, St. Ambrose, our congregation, decided to partner with National Poor, who develops and manages affordable housing. You'll hear lots more about their work tonight. They've also worked with several other Episcopal congregations in this region. And it's been a really exciting time for our congregation to vision with the folks from National Poor. And we're really thrilled to be able to share the plans, those visions and plans with you tonight. Those plans for affordable senior housing, what we discerned would best fit our mission and this neighborhood. So the purpose of tonight's meeting is to give you more information, to reach out, to connect with our neighbors, you, our community, and to share with you some of those visions and plans, to get your feedback, to hear your questions, your thoughts. We're going to hear from National Poor first about their ongoing supportive services, about what they offer, about specifically what this development would be like. And as you came in, maybe, or they're on your table, there are comment cards. So as you're hearing the presentation, we ask that if you have questions or comments, you jot them down on the cards and give them to one of the people with a National Poor name tag, and we'll bring them up. We're going to do our very best to get to every question and concern, but we also are going to end the meeting at 8 o'clock. So that means that we're going to stay after, and we are committed, St. Ambrose and the National Poor leadership, to connect with everybody, to hear those concerns, to have those conversations. And there will be follow-up information, contact information provided if you have additional comments beyond tonight. And finally, because, as I mentioned, change is hard, even if it's change for the best. And change can rile us up. It can rile up our passions. I want to invite you to approach tonight's meeting and conversation with an open mind, listening respectfully to individuals, criticizing not individuals, but ideas and concepts. Sharing information with one another so we can educate one another, not necessarily persuade one another. Avoiding blame and speculation. Avoiding assumptions or generalizations about any social groups. And to speak from your own authority, your own experience, and not on behalf of other people. So I want to thank you for respecting these guidelines and for being here tonight. We're all committed to what is best for our neighborhood and for the city of Claremont, or else we wouldn't be here. So from that common background, let's explore what senior affordable housing at St. Ambrose could look like. Sarah.
All right, good evening. My name is Sarah Walker. I am a planning project manager with National Corps. I have been with National Corps for 10 years now, and I'm joined tonight by a number of different National Corps representatives that are here to kind of help me present information and answer any questions. I wanted to just quickly kind of point them out. We have Blanca, who is the regional director for the Hope Through Housing Foundation, our sister nonprofit. We also have Michael De La Torre, who's in the back. He's our vice president of acquisitions for the LA region. I also have Maricela, who's here. She's our regional property manager and oversees the portfolio of affordable housing in the region. And I also have Anne with Union Station, who will also be helping support residents that are living on the site. So National Corps and who we are, we were founded roughly 30 years ago. We are based in Rancho Cucamonga. We have a portfolio of roughly 10,000 units, and we oversee and support roughly 27,000 residents. One of the things that I like about working for National Corps is that we are vertically integrated, and it's really been an interesting way to learn about development. We start with the planning and development process, working with the design team. We have an in-house sustainability coordinator. And then we have an in-house general contractor who actually builds the housing based on what we've designed, making sure that what we designed is actually put into place. And then we have our property management team who we stay on. We don't walk away from the properties. We stay on and manage them in perpetuity. And then we also have the supported services in order to support our residents in hopes of changing their lives. So as I mentioned, National Corps is an owner-operator. So we are going to build the housing, and then we're going to stay on site and provide property management. And so that means that we have a vested interest in making sure that what we're designing and building is high quality and that it's going to last. Our resident property managers also provide resident screening and parking management and other services to ensure that everything is well run on site. Oh, I'm so sorry. Thank you. Thank you for that. Because we do own our properties in perpetuity, it's a priority for us that we are embracing sustainability. And so we pride ourselves on incorporating sustainable design into each of our properties. And that includes things like solar panels and water-efficient irrigation and fixtures, operating systems, and heating and cooling ventilation. And it's kind of exciting to share, actually at a church partnership project in the city of Santa Ana, we recently were able to achieve LEED Platinum at one of our projects. It's the highest we've been able to achieve so far. So St. Ambrose, at a minimum, the senior housing will have drought-tolerant landscaping, solar panels on the roof, we'll have water-efficient fixtures, and we will be likely at least meeting LEED Gold or exceeding it. So we have a number, National Corps serves a number of different target populations. We have many family properties. Oh, okay. Okay, let me know if you can't hear me. Sorry, somebody wave at me next time. So to share our We're proud to kind of share some of the recent senior communities that we recently opened that actually, highly encourage you to drive by. And if anybody's interested in a tour, this is something that we've done. We've already taken actually members of the congregation to tour our Day Creek Senior Villas, which is in Rancho Cucamonga. I have up here Vista Grande Court, which is in the city of Glendale. But as I mentioned, we serve a number of different target populations. A lot of our properties are for families, seniors, veterans, special needs populations, developmentally disabled. We have a wide variety of experience serving different types of residents. I also have had the privilege of working, this is actually my 5th church partnership project, and actually my 3rd with the Episcopal Diocese. We have projects in the city of Placentia and Buena Park that are both with the Episcopal Church. And we have our projects in San Diego and Santa Ana with the Methodist Church, and we also have worked with the Seventh-day Adventist. So we are finding this, we consider ourselves to be on the kind of cutting edge of seeing this as a big opportunity to really serve local communities. So in Claremont, looking at the city's housing element for 2021 to 2028, there is a growing need. There's an increasing senior population. You have many seniors that are living on Social Security. They're being priced out of rental units. You may not see them on the streets. It may be that they're living with family members or they're living in their cars. So the housing at St. Ambrose will be restricted to serve seniors that are age 62 and older. There will be a total of 59 units. All of the units, with the exception of the on-site manager, will be affordable to households earning 70% of the area median income, which for Los Angeles is about $70,000 a year for a one-bedroom household. And then 28 of those units will be set aside for residents as supportive housing. So you can see that per the housing element, there is an increasing need, and there are a number of senior households in the city that are now experiencing a cost burden within the city of Claremont specifically. So as Jesse mentioned, over the last few months, we've been working very closely with the church to kind of figure out how we could best utilize the land to meet their objectives and serve the community. So we have really tried to ensure that the design aligns with what they were wanting to achieve and would fit in and kind of serve the neighborhood or make sure that it's compatible with the neighborhood. So the kind of key considerations that we looked at when we were designing this were trying to provide as much housing as we could with a reasonable, within kind of the existing design guidelines or requirements. So looking at the height, limit, and looking at the setbacks. We really tried to take into account what is permitted on the site. And so we have the 59 units that I mentioned for 62 and older. We also looked at ensuring that there was adequate parking for the church and the housing. There will be 88 spaces that are on the site. And then we also wanted to, we looked at the fact that this was a site that's identified in the city's housing element as a housing site, looked at kind of the boundary that was allowed in the city's general plan. So diving in a little bit deeper, and I know this is a little bit hard to see, so I encourage you to look at the boards in the back after the meeting or the handout when you have an opportunity. But just to kind of walk you through what the design of the building kind of looks like, we have, as I mentioned, 59 units. 56 of those are one bedrooms. 3 are 2 bedrooms. One of the 2 bedroom units will be for the on-site manager who will be living there 24/7. The ground floor has a community room that's approximately 1,500 square feet. There are 4 different supportive services, so people will come in that main entry and they'll have access into kind of a communal area where we're able to kind of provide services, provide community events, gathering opportunities for our residents. In designing how the building sat on the site, we ensured that there is at least 15 feet setback on all sides. And in some instances, there's actually greater than that. We also, you'll see in the next slide, that we were really careful about the height and really tried to ensure that we were stepping the building up. So you can see we will be planting new trees along the southern edge to make sure that there's screening for the existing senior rental property to the south. And we will be making sure that those are appropriately sized so that they don't grow too tall and they're appropriate or drought tolerant and native. And then, as I mentioned, For parking, there were 88 spaces. And we did some research kind of looking into the fact there is a bus stop just on the corner across Mountain here. And there is good access to dial-a-ride, and there's other opportunities for shared parking. And the great thing about the site is that you can walk to quite a bit from here. Downtown is very close, as well as the senior center and a number of parks. So to kind of give you a sense of the building, we designed this so that there's a two-story element, kind of fronting Mountain. This is essentially kind of your, as you're walking along Mountain Avenue, this is what you will see. We have kind of the one-story portion closest to the street, stepping up to 2 stories, and then ultimately up to 3. You can see there's people, we have a couple different places where we've tucked in kind of some covered porches or balcony areas that can be used for community gathering. We have a maximum height, so it is a maximum of 3 stories, and the bulk massing of the building is 35 feet, but there are architectural elements that go up to 40 feet. So, and this is kind of an internal view. If you're standing essentially right here and looking south, this is what you would see kind of from the church property, and it shows kind of the main entrance of the building. Kind of showing the covered porch walkway and how you would enter. Sorry, I'm going to go back for 1 second. So in just looking at the design, we did look at the neighborhood character. We looked kind of at the Claremont Heritage website and different resources to kind of figure out what architecture we thought might blend in. We also looked at the church building and what materials are used on the church building. And we decided on a mix of kind of a craftsman style with the batten board and stucco, as well as some sort of rock or stone that is still in process. I've heard a variety of different input on the types of stone that we should be using there. So we're still, again, tonight we're here. It's a very early on meeting, and we're here to kind of collect input and hear your comments. So community amenities will be for our residents. It includes the community room with a work kitchen, a seating and lounge area with a TV for movie nights, also a kind of a technology nook. We will have office space for case management and leasing staff and property management staff. There will be indoor bike storage. We have a couple different exterior covered porch areas. We also, because many of our seniors do have small particular dogs, we will have a fenced-in dog run area. As well as some outdoor seating and barbecues. The building will be elevator served, as this is a senior population. There will also be laundry rooms on each floor. So I wanted to just share that, as Jesse mentioned, this really was the vision of the church, and National Core sees itself as trying to help partner with the church in order to make their vision come to life. And as National Core goes through the process, and as we move into hopefully being able to build the building, ultimately, once residents move in, we will have 2 different organizations that will be partnering with us to make sure that our residents are supported, and that includes the Hope Through Housing Foundation, as well as Union Station. So I'm going to turn it over to Blanca at this point to kind of give a little bit of information about who Hope Through Housing Foundation is. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Let me make sure I don't trip as I arrive here. And, this is my first meeting for this project. And my name is Blanca Arellano. I've been with Hope Through Housing now 8 years, and I love the mission, which I will be sharing with you momentarily. But just curious, how many of you, before this project, have heard of National Core by raise of hands? I'm impressed. Before this project, have you heard of Hope Through Housing by raise of hands? A few, okay. We're the hidden secret. We're the secret sauce. We make it all happen. So, although in this community it's senior specific, I do want to share a little bit more about who we are and what we do. So on the screen you're going to see that we are, actually I want to take a peek. Yes, okay. So our mission, which is why I love what I do, and then I'll come back to the other screen, is dedicated to breaking the cycle of generational poverty by implementing programs that empower individuals and change communities. So we, as Sarah mentioned, we don't work only with seniors. We work with families, children, disabled, veterans, every single type of population or person that really needs help. We welcome everyone and we help everyone. But, and we do, for family communities, look at affordable housing as a launching pad into self-sufficiency, not a landing pad. With seniors, our goal is to create a support system that allows them to age with dignity, remain independent in their own home. We focus on making sure that the basic needs are met. Physical and mental health is maintained, and individuals are connected to their community. So that means that we do a lot of activities with them. We do education with them. If you got a chance to see a video that's playing right over here, and we have another video that's playing on the other side. If you haven't seen it, please take a look. The video that's on the back side, it shows a senior moving into the apartment for the very first time and the joy that it brought them. And they share their story of how they came to that affordable housing. The video that we're showcasing here is a community that's been in place for over 15 years maybe. And you get to see the seniors that have been living there for quite some time telling you all of the great things that we do with them. So it's, what we do is, for families, as I mentioned, we help the children and teens achieve success. So in some communities, you will see that we have preschools, sometimes after school programs, teen clubs everywhere, mandatory. And then we also have, for families, for working families, we also have pathways to economic empowerment. There we provide one-on-one financial counseling, classes on budgeting, and then we also assess every single community once a year to see what we're providing, does it make sense? What we're providing, does it still make an impact? And if it's not, we change it the following year. And so, with families, it could be anything additional, such as GED classes, ESL, parenting, whatever is needed, we do our best to provide it. And everything is free of charge to the families and the children. But we can't just do education, because we also have to sprinkle in the fun. So, of course, with seniors and with families, we include game nights, movie nights, days in the sun. For going back to school, we provide the backpacks with the school supplies, the holiday celebrations, the toys to the children. We do all of that with them, for them, alongside them. For seniors, we're all about promoting their health and making sure that they're not scammed. So that's where most of the education comes in, along with wellness classes. But we also have a fourth pillar, and that's fostering stability and independence to those that need permanent supportive housing. Those wraparound services, whatever they may be, because each individual is a little bit different. So with that in mind, I wanted to share with you, for those of you that are not familiar with us, if you go to Montclair, we have 4 communities there. I'm only showing 3 here. I was reminded that I forgot one. My apologies. But we have San Antonio Vista in Montclair. That's 75 family apartments, where we do have a youth program, if you were to stop by. And that community is 15 or so years young. So if you're thinking, well, what will our community look like 5 years from now, 10 years from now? It'll look just the way that it was built. It's going to look amazing. And as I was looking at the drawings on the boards, because again, this is my first meeting, there's a lot of elements that look similar to a community that we just opened up down in Lake Forest called Mountain View. So if you're ever down in Lake Forest, stop by and look at Mountain View. Beautiful, gorgeous, you're going to love it. But here in Montclair, we also have St. Emmy, where we have adults with developmental disabilities, my apologies, and San Marino, which is also a senior community. So if you know any seniors living at San Marino, feel free to stop by and say, hey, tell us about Hope. And I guarantee you that they're going to be very happy to share all of the great things that we do for them there. So, a little bit more about us. Of course, I have to tell you how great we are, because we are. That's what keeps me here. And so in 2023, we had 572 youths enrolled in after-school teen and mentoring programs. We gave away 2,000 backpacks with quality school supplies. We gave away $30,000 in Building Bright Future scholarships to youth and adult because we believe that education can be always looked at as a career or as a change for a better life. We opened up 3 new after-school programs in Pomona, LA, and Houston because we are nationwide. Now, not every state, but we are here in California, Texas, and Florida. We had 720 residents receive financial coaching and financial education. And then, of course, during COVID, we had a lot of a need for rental assistance. Between then and now, we have helped the residents living in affordable housing with $7.7 million in rental assistance. I want to share that number because through our efforts and through that work, we were able to make sure that families that were really close to not having a home, stay housed. So if we didn't do this, you can see just where our communities would be with more people being unhoused without our assistance. We had 5,160 residents receive food and or health and wellness support. 502 seniors participated in fitness and exercise classes, which happens to be a favorite, that and bingo. Imagine that. And then, of course, 90% of the formerly homeless residents were successfully maintained within their housing. Just a snapshot of 2023 for you all to see. And with that, I turn it back to Sarah.
All right. So just to kind of, as we get towards the end here, I just wanted to kind of share our timeline. As I mentioned, we are really early on in our process. We just started back in October doing some of our back in August, we started doing kind of some of our stakeholder outreach. We've been talking to a variety of different groups in the city of Claremont, from Housing Claremont, Inclusive Claremont. We've talked to Supervisor Barger's office. We've talked to the city staff. We've been kind of making sure that we're checking and talking to people to kind of find out what they see the needs are within their community. The most recent step that we did was we had a meeting with the congregation. And we felt it was very important to make sure that the congregation felt really good about what we were designing and what we were proposing. And so just 2 Sundays ago, we just had a meeting to kind of check in with them and present to them. And generally, it was a very exciting meeting. They were excited to see kind of actually see it start to come to life. And so that was really our first priority, is to make sure that they were happy. And so we're here tonight to check in with the neighbors. And, we invited neighbors within 1,000 feet of the property, and we're here to answer questions and to kind of hear your thoughts tonight. In terms of moving forward, our plan is not to submit to the city for a little bit here. Again, we want to get input. I did want to invite up Brad Johnson, the Community Development Director of the City of Claremont. He was going to provide a little bit of information about what will happen once we do submit to the city for our planning review.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming tonight. Thank you for the introduction. I would also like to start off with a couple of introductions from city representatives that are here. We have Jed Liano, council member, in the back of the room here tonight. We also have Nick Halati in the back of the room, who's our senior planner. And Nick has been very instrumental in processing the city's housing element update as of late, and is really our local guru when it comes to affordable housing in the city's site. So we're welcome to stay after the meeting and ask us more questions if we run out of time before 8 p.m. But the reason I wanted to stand up tonight and touch base, I know there's a lot of sometimes confusion in the community about what the city's role is in entitlements and approving projects. And what I can say is the landscape in the arena of affordable housing has drastically changed over the last few years. So The history of Claremont, not only are we known as a city of trees and PhDs, we're also known as process is our business. That's been Claremont for many, many decades. So it's a monumental shift not to have these robust discussions in public and public hearings, and they can be good and bad. In Claremont, we think they've been good for many decades. It's been great. Community dialogue. Our residents like the dialogue. But in this new landscape of affordable housing, there's this new term that some of you in this room, I'm sure, have heard that's called by right. So for many, many decades, cities all across the state of California have used conditional use permits, planned unit developments, other terms to bring items to public hearings before planning commissions and city councils. So what the state perceives those type of hearings is we've all heard the words NIMBY and YIMBY. They interpret those type of hearings as allowing NIMBYs to stop projects, and that's why housing is not getting produced across the state of California, and not enough housing, and that's why we're in the housing crisis we are today. You can believe that theory or not, some do, some don't, but that's what the state believes. And so there's a handful of new housing bills that have come down over the past few years, and some that have been around for 20 years. So those new bills essentially create these streamlined processes or by right processes that require cities process applications in a very quick manner. We have 30 days, 60 days, 90 days for various housing development projects, so we have very little time to react. I want to applaud actually National Corps for being here tonight because, and St. Ambrose, they don't need to be here tonight. They could come to the counter and turn in an application at the planning counter. We could have 30 or 60 days to respond back and forth, and then we essentially have to issue a building permit to go build the project with no public hearings. So we don't like to tell anybody that because that's just not how Claremont operates. But that's the world we live in now as far as when affordable housing projects are being processed. Again, it's uncomfortable for Claremont because, as I mentioned, we're used to many, many decades of robust public hearings, but we have not processed a lot of affordable housing projects here in Claremont. This is our third project we're talking about recently. Our last project was many years ago at Courier Place. So a lot of cities are going to see a lot of housing go up across the state, and I think neighborhoods are going to feel a little left out. They're going to feel like it's not transparent. We're going to continue to try to do our best and ask developers to come out and do this kind of outreach you see tonight. We're going to do our best to come up with some good design guidelines and standards for these type of projects so we don't get low quality architectural styles. As for this specific site, this site was selected for our housing element opportunity sites map. So it's on that map. It was one site that we identified, and so but there's also been other bills. Senate Bill 4 that was recently adopted allows all church properties across the state of California to actually develop by right housing on their church properties, as well as nonprofit schools. So I think you're going to see across the state, across Claremont, many churches step up and want to do the type of deeds that you heard St. Ambrose speak about tonight to fix some societal ills and provide much needed housing across the state. So again, as I mentioned, this site was already selected at the densities, actually a little higher densities than they're proposing on this project. There's a Senate bill called Senate Bill 1818. That's a bill that's been around for 20 years that actually allows density bonuses. It allows reduction in parking, things that we're not used to seeing in Claremont, but we will adjust. We will work with developers such as National Corps, and I think they're going to be cooperative. We've had a couple of meetings. We've been working with Mercy House and other developers they want to do the right thing. They want to bring us some quality architecture and some quality buildings. So I'm optimistic that we'll have success. That's about all I have to say tonight. Is I know it is going to be a little out of place not to have architectural commission meetings, planning commission meetings, city council meetings, but we hope these meetings will be fruitful. I think the developers appear to want to listen and try to accommodate any adjustments to their project that neighbors that will be affected may experience if the project's not adjusted. So with that, I'll hang around after the meeting. Nick will be here and happy to answer any questions. So thank you.
so just to finish up, so as Brad kind of walked through, we will hopefully be collecting input, comments, refining the design as needed. Our plan is to hopefully submit to the city an application in the spring. We are planning to apply for LACDA funding. There is a NOFA coming up, so we are doing that this month to see if we are able to get funding for this in order to move it forward. It would be a key piece of the puzzle to start moving it. And then we will, depending on what happens, we will go for 9% tax credits, and hopefully the earliest, kind of a very optimistic timeline would be that we would be able to open in 2027. So this is not happening tomorrow, but we are trying our best to move the process forward, and I'm going to go ahead and open it up. I did want to go ahead and share. I'm going to leave this up for a little bit. We do have a website that's started. It does not have a lot of information on it currently. We are working as we kind of develop these materials to add to it, so you can continue to check it for updates. We have comment cards on the table. We're going to go ahead and collect those. If you have questions that you maybe don't feel comfortable asking, you're welcome to give those to Cynthia, who's walking around. And we are happy to read those at the mic if you would like us to answer them here, or we can also take them and answer them after. Feel free to email us. The email address for this particular community is up here. We also are open to organizing a tour if there's a number of people that would like to do that. So if you are interested in touring one of our existing properties, I know Blanca mentioned Lake Forest, which was one of the kind of inspirations for the architecture that we chose for this building, but also Day Creek is close by in Ocho. So we're open to doing a tour, so please feel free to reach out to us if you have an interest in doing that. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to go ahead and start the question and answer. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start with a couple that are on the cards. So, and I am sorry, I'm going to have trouble with handwriting, Andy. This is from Lee Kane. So is this prevent?
Yes.
LACDA funding?
Mm-hmm.
In terms of preventing us from applying or preventing us from winning?
Winning.
From winning? Mm-hmm. It's very competitive right now. And a lot of the projects that are winning tend to be, a higher percent of supportive housing. This current NOFA does limit the amount of supportive housing that you can have within the project or the development. They are prioritizing developments that have existing funding with the county or affordable housing sustainable communities funding. So every time the NOFA changes and they prioritize different things. So we meet threshold for the applying for this. So we'll have to see who else goes in. We just don't know who else is applying at this point. So, or fingers crossed. So, go ahead.
What's the difference? A certain percentage of them, a little over half, are affordable housing, and then some of them are supportive housing. Could you explain the difference between the two?
Yes, I can do that. So within the community, there's 59 units.
Repeat the question.
Oh, I'm sorry. So she's asking about the different, within the community, kind of who's going to be living there, what are the difference between the 30 units that are general affordable and the 28 that will be for supportive housing. And so the main difference is that the general affordable units will be for individuals that are earning typically between 30 and 70. We have kind of a set aside of different amounts of incomes for those, and again, 62 and older. And then the supportive housing units will be individuals, 62 and older, that are placed through the county continuum of care. So they likely will be individuals from the service planning area 3, but they will come to us. The general affordable units, we do a lottery for those. So we essentially have fill out an application, and there's a lottery process, and you're selected and moved in. Okay, so I have another, I'm going to read, there's not a name on this one, but who will own the building and the land? Will it be purchased? So to answer that first question, St. Ambrose is going to remain the landowner of the entire 3-acre parcel. So National Corps will be ground leasing a portion of the land, but we will not be the owner of the land. So we will be operating the building and St. Ambrose will continue to be that neighborhood community anchor that it is currently. And okay, there's another question, there's a couple in here. What is the relationship between National Core and Hope Through Housing? So again, National Core is the kind of development arm of the nonprofit, and then the Hope Through Housing Foundation is a separate 501c3 that is affiliated with National Core. And we, I guess, I don't know, Blanca, if you want to explain this one, probably can better than I.
You have one question.
Oh,
So National Core was created over 30 years ago, and when they started to build these beautiful buildings and start to see the families that were moving in, they immediately saw the need that these families needed more support than just beautiful housing. So at that point, our founders felt the need to create a nonprofit sister organization to come in and be able to provide those services to those families. So think of us like a sister nonprofit organization to National Core, and because we are both mission driven, you will see that we deliver on everything that we say that we will.
Okay, Wesley is asking, why do you have so many parking spaces? And so I wanted to, I love this question. I don't think I've ever been asked I'm doing this. This was amazing. We really tried hard to find the right balance. So we knew that we needed to ensure that the church had adequate parking. They've been doing parking counts during different days, different hours, different months of the year. Jesse's been doing counts for me for several months now, so that we had a good sense of what the church's needs were for parking. And then we also want to make sure that we have enough parking for residents, but that we're not over parking and not housing cars over people. And so it's kind of that right balance of making sure there's open space, there's parking, and also an appropriate amount of units. So that is how we kind of came to the 88 parking spaces. And yeah, there's a lot of opportunities on the site for shared parking, as well as, just residents being able to use the local amenities for transit. Let's see. There's a couple questions actually about why it will take so long. I wish that it didn't take so long, but the reality is that it does. Oftentimes I don't have my slide in here, but it typically takes anywhere from 6 to 12 months to get the design process. Even if it's a by right project, it still takes us quite a while to make sure that we have the engineering right, that we have the design and the architectural details figured out, the landscaping. And then it really takes, a year, often more, to get financing. So, and then once we get that financing, we have to get our permits, and then it takes usually 18, we have no more than 2 years to build, but most of the projects that I've worked on, a fast timeline is 5 years. And this is part of the problem, and one of the challenges with building enough housing is it takes a long time. I wish it was faster. And that was, yeah. Are there any other parents that want to ask the question? Yeah.
I'm just wondering, when will applications be taken, and how can the organization refer people into that? Is it strictly to the county, or are there other avenues?
Yeah, so she's asking when applications will be taken and how she can refer individuals through her organization, whether it has to be through the county. And so again, usually our application process opens, I think, about 3 to 6 months before construction is complete. Again, we do the lottery closer to that. We've often worked with community partners to do some kind of local initiatives to make sure that local residents have opportunities to fill out applications, make sure those applications are filled out correctly, that they have the right documentation ready to go, so that when they go into that lottery, they're in good shape. They're not going to get disqualified. So it obviously probably 2 to 3 years until, in the best case scenario. And then the 28 units that are supportive housing, those will be placed to the county. The 30 units will be through a lottery, through National Core, and we will put up a website for that process, for the application process closer to that time. So, yes.
Yeah, you mentioned that the feeding area for this is service area 3. How big is service area 3? What makes it up?
How big is the service area planning, the service planning area 3?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's the entire San Gabriel Valley.
32 cities in San Gabriel Valley, from Pomona, Claremont, all the way to Pasadena, and everything in between. So it's about a 5 million population base.
Okay, so about a 5 million population base that spreads across the San Gabriel Valley. Yes.
So will Claremont residents get preference?
So again, with fair housing, we have to be careful. And we have had success with some kind of soft preferences, like I mentioned, kind of holding, working with local organizations to make sure that people's applications are filled out correctly. And we have had success with this. For example, in Santa Ana, we did do a soft local preference there, and we were, I believe, pretty high percentage. I want to say 60 or 70% of the people that ended up moving in were from the city.
Yorba Linda was 70%.
Okay, so in our Yorba Linda project was 74% were local. Yes.
Two questions. One, does Section 8 funding still exist?
It does, but this will not be a Section 8 development. These, we are applying for vouchers, but they are project-based vouchers. So Section 8 typically goes with the household or the resident.
Goes either way, at least it used to.
Okay.
But
Well, these ones will be tied to the unit. Yeah.
another question, will the contractor use local, will the building or the general contractor use subcontractors that are local and minority?
So he's asking if the general contractor will use local or minority subcontractors, and we will comply with, I know that we will at least be paying federal prevailing wage on this project. I don't know yet because we don't have our funding completely in place. I do not know exactly which labor requirements, but we often have to hire compliance analysts in order to.
It's going beyond, but hiring minorities, contractors especially, goes beyond regulations.
Yes, in some instances it does. In many places, like the city of LA, we have a number of projects now that we have a PLA in place or a kind of a hiring plan. So,
Yeah, and I can also add, National Core is a general contractor, so we have the ability to hire our subcontractors and focus on that.
yeah.
The question, you have the ability, but will you?
I mean, we certainly can plan for it, yeah.
Go ahead.
Thank you. This is a wonderful project, and I commend you for it. And I think it also illustrates the power of faith-based institutions to provide affordable housing. Earlier in my life, I lived in Montgomery County, Maryland, and the faith-based organizations came together and went to the county, and it resulted in getting funding and the building of an enormous number of units of housing. Now you're part of a same sort of movement here in California. I live in Pilgrim Place, and we've set aside a lot for the same sort of purposes. I'm wondering, what can we do to encourage other faith-based institutions, educational institutions, to play the same role? If we could do that, we would easily meet our target for providing affordable housing in Claremont.
Yeah, and that's, in case anybody couldn't hear him, he was kind of asking how we can continue to encourage religious organizations to kind of further this mission of adding housing and supporting the community. And I can tell you, it's actually pretty exciting, and particularly the SB4 passage was a big deal. We are seeing a lot of interest from a lot of local religious institutions, and there are a lot of groups out there, such as Making Housing Happen, that are working to educate and kind of connect churches. And sounds like, do you want to add something?
I was just going to say that on February 27th, in Pomona, there is a faith forum on housing and homelessness. for local faith groups to come and learn about things like that, just about what is available around housing and homelessness. So we can send through your mailing list if anybody's interested, or if you want to give that to your faith leaders or your congregations. It's the morning of February 27th, and it's at the synagogue in Pomona. But I think Lee knows. Do you have?
It's at Temple Beth Israel. And you can contact me if you want to. I can send you the flyer.
Yeah. We've been working closely with the Interfaith Council, or we've presented and met with them, and we had a lot of interest when we were there. A lot of people were very excited and interested in doing the same thing on their properties. So it definitely has ignited an interest from a lot of different groups. So, yeah.
On that point exactly, what is National Corps' I guess scope? I mean, can you scale up for a lot of these projects?
Can we scale up in what regard?
I mean, you've got a lot of projects.
Mm-hmm.
What's your ability to scale?
Yeah, I mean, we've, interestingly, since I started in National Corps 10 years ago, we did about 3 projects a year. And I think we have like 15 under construction at the moment. We have seen tremendous growth. Our company has grown, again, when I started, it was about 300 people. We're at 600 now. And a lot of that growth is property management, because we need people to be able to manage the properties, run them well, and make sure that they are well run and continue to look good. But we're trying. It's hard. Affordable housing is a very challenging, kind of nuanced field in some ways. So if anybody knows anybody, we are hiring. So yes.
Is the or what is the target population for supportive housing?
So the target population for supportive housing, it is a target population. It is typically people, and they are earning under 30% of the area median income. They often are people that are part of the county continuum of care, and they have been going through the process of seeking housing or trying to be placed into housing. And I don't know, Anne, or if you...
I was going to say another term is workforce housing for, the folks that,
not workforce housing.
Yeah, supportive housing.
I apologize.
We can't hear you.
I misunderstood the question.
Did you?
Yeah.
I'll use the mic. Hold on.
Hi, everyone. So basically, supportive housing is for extremely low income and often generally people who are experiencing homelessness or who are living in temporary and interim housing. The way the process works is we do outreach throughout the San Gabriel Valley. We connect with these folks, and then they are assigned a caseworker who helps them get everything that they need to get into housing. So make sure they are document ready. They have all their IDs, their documents. We get them on any other benefits like SSI or general relief, whatever that is. And then what we do is through our social workers, we look at the individuals or families, and we determine what are their needs and what is the best match for those needs and what kind of housing is going to be best for those clients. So we want to make sure that we match the client to the appropriate housing. In some cases, a lot of people are actually in scattered site apartments. We just rent apartments and we support them. In other cases, it's buildings like this one that we're talking about. So we work closely with National Corps, with Hope Through Housing to really provide the intensive services that these folks need. So it's many of the things that you've already heard about, but we do, again, through social workers, mental health workers, et cetera, intensive case management with these folks as they're transitioning from the street to housing. Again, one of the things that we look at, we're still bound by fair housing laws, but we do look at individuals to say, are they connected to a local community? We know that's going to be more successful for them to stay within their own community than to say, well, there's a place in, Glendale. So although we can't go against fair housing, we can say that that is one of the things that we would look at to ensure that it is a successful transition for these folks. We specialize in this, and we've worked with National Core. We partner with them on other buildings. We have a 97% success rate with the people that we get housed. They stay housed, and they do very well. This kind of supportive housing is just very, very successful.
Chronic homelessness, is that the legal label that you use when you seek funding for your project? Chronic homelessness.
It does not have to be chronic homelessness.
Is it in this case?
In this case, it is basically looking at the individual who, again, everybody who experiences homelessness is signed
Is
up in
the
the
legal label chronic homelessness?
No,
Thank you.
no. It depends on what the needs of the
No, it
clients
doesn't
are. If they
depend. It
match
is or
the
it
housing, and it can be different as long as it is actual homelessness.
Can you tell us your name?
Oh, yeah, my name is Ann Miskey, and I'm the president and CEO of Union Station Homeless Services.
My question is what happens through your management work to build a community once people actually are moving into your facilities, because as we know, a house is not yet a home. And to what extent will your efforts build friendships or community support for each other, or kind of sense of community here and at St. Ambrose Core and in Claremont as well? I asked that question out of a background, knowing, sitting in this room, working with a very important group a decade ago having to do with care for people who were houseless and advocates for them. And this church supported meals here on a regular basis and outreach to them in very good, you have to say, spiritual and practical ways. So what do you see in terms of the best management practices for building this community?
Yes, I mean, I was going to have you come up, Blanca. Yeah, I just wanted to say, so his question was about, creating community, and best practice for property management, best practices. I will say it was pretty kind of exciting to hear at our placenta development, the church actually provided welcome baskets for some of the residents that were moving in, particularly those in the supportive housing. And it was a really nice opportunity for the church to welcome those residents as neighbors. But I'll let Blanca kind of share some of the best practices as well.
So just to make sure that we touch on the different people that are going to be here at this community. So we're going to have Marcy's team there, living on site, which is the property manager. Then we're going to have one of the Hope Through Housing Services Coordinator, which is part of my team. I oversee a team of them that provide services across my region, which is LA County, Orange County, and Riverside County. And then of course we're going to have someone from Marcy's team as well. So Marcy's team will provide case management to make sure that everything that is needed for those for folks is provided. Hope Through Housing is going to be the main provider, and we provide everything at large. That's where the social activity comes in. That's where the education comes in. We put up a monthly calendar. But our coordinator goes beyond that. We stay connected with the church or local organizations. We become members of the local chamber. We completely are outside interacting with the surrounding community, because there's always questions and there's always a need for housing. And you will get to know us really well, because we're going to want to get to know you really well. And so we are big on building community within the building itself, because we need that. Our seniors need that. We cannot allow seniors to isolate themselves, keep to themselves. And that's why we do a lot of fun things. So yes, we do celebrate just about every single holiday on the calendar. Ice cream float days, yes, we celebrate that. So it's not just bingo and yoga or Tai Chi. We really do our best to make sure that we prevent isolation, because if we prevent isolation, we prevent depression. So we do a lot of social activity with our seniors because that's what's needed. But we are big on building community. So every month we have a calendar, and within that calendar there's a lot of activity. And we also have just your very run-of-the-mill, community meetings where we can come out, have coffee socials, once a week. It's very typical of what we do. Movie nights are typically once a month, and then we add in, again, education and fun. But we stay very, very connected to the surrounding community, and we look forward to getting to know all of you. Did that answer your question?
Thank you very much, Gill.
Yes.
I can't stand up. I would like to say that going and having a tour of some of these facilities that have been built is really wonderful. I had a chance to go to the one in Rancho Cucamonga. I went around quite a bit, but because I have a walker and it's difficult for me to get around, I chose to sit in the common area by the front door. And that was wonderful because a few family members came in, and I talked to them about their loved one and what was it like for them. And it was incredible. So if you can go for a tour, I would highly recommend it.
She was able to join us as a congregation member. We did a tour with some of the congregation members prior to even kind of starting the design process to kind of give them, some ideas and a view of kind of what can happen. Yes.
So tonight you've made some specific comments about the population that's to be housed in this development, but you also mentioned that you haven't secured all your funding. And we know from another project in the area that the funding determines the target population. So what process do you guys have or are implementing to ensure that the funding that you're seeking results in the population that you're promising for the neighborhood?
Yeah, I mean, this one is a little bit different than some of the other projects in the area, and that's simply because St. Ambrose is the owner of the land, and they will continue to be.
So the other project is owned by Pilgrim Place, so it's very similar in that respect. It's not by Jamboree after the sale.
Right, and so it was sold as a separate parcel. This one, we have an agreement with the church, and we actually have an existing option agreement with the church, and it very clearly outlines what the target population is, and that this will be a senior project. It has always been a senior project from the very beginning, and it will remain a senior project.
So in that respect, if you don't secure the funding that you need that supports the senior population, then the project will go on hold or will get rethought? We
continue to apply and apply. I mean, there have been projects that we have had to apply several times, so we will continue. We will not, we do not change the target population simply because we've designed a certain way to accommodate a certain population in this building. And again, we have, an obligation to the church as our partner. This is what we've designed collectively. This was their vision and what they wanted to do with their land.
Very good, thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
What's the relationship between the church and the Hope Housing?
And Hope Through Health. You're asking, is there a relationship? How does that work? I mean, again, this is, the funding that will be used to construct the development will be public funding, and it does have to be a separation of church and state. So in that regard, it is separate from the church, but again, there are a lot of opportunities for volunteer from not just the church, but the city or the community, but there isn't like an existing relationship per se between Hope Through Housing and the church. National Corps has entered into an agreement with the church in order to explore and to move forward with the development.
So the church into National Corps?
That's correct.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm going to just do do it at times, so we're at 7:40. I'm happy to continue answering questions. I also don't know, I know some people prefer to have smaller group conversations. I'm also happy, again, we have a large team here, and we're happy to stick around and answer questions if people feel more comfortable kind of going back to the boards and looking at things. Is there any other questions that? Yes.
The guest from Union Mission, or whatever it's called.
Union Station.
Union Station. She mentioned that the people will be drawn from interim housing, bridge housing. Is that a set thing, or is that just a hope?
It will be some.
Here, Anne, hold on. Yeah, why don't you come with it? So your question is about whether individuals will be.
When I talked to you earlier, and you said you weren't involved with the funding, so I wasn't sure.
So National Corps is the developer, and we're the ones. We are the ones applying for the funding, and Union Station is our service partner, and they will work with the county, and I can let her answer about the population.
Again, so the population will be designated senior. So we use the county database, and we look at who is appropriate, 62 and older. And it is generally from those experiencing homelessness. It may be people in interim housing. It may be people who are living in their cars. It really just depends on the individual and who the database spits out in terms of who's appropriate, and we take that person. There's no preference for people living in interim housing or that are like living on the street. It really is just looking at the list of people that fit the requirements for the building. So it could be, they could be living in a car, they could be living in a tent, they could be living in interim housing. And we have really no say over that. It's all based on this county, and the county works to decide.
It's the coordinated entry system that
That
makes
is
your
correct.
decisions? And are they still looking at prioritizing the most chronic? And they're typically on drug addicted and alcohol and mentally ill?
No. There's a variety of things that they look at. One of them would be age. One of them would be disability. If you have somebody who is in a wheelchair, may have severe diabetes. They could be 80 years old and they're living on the streets, so your age will make a decision. So they take all sorts of criteria into consideration, and it's not, we're going to pick everybody who's got a substance use issue. It doesn't screen people out for that, but that's not how the database works. It's really a whole variety of things. And when we're talking senior population, we are often talking about physical health issues of seniors or cognitive issues. Maybe you have someone who is starting to develop early onset Alzheimer's or things like that. With senior population, it often is more of the physical health-related issues of aging that would prioritize you to go into the building.
I thank you guys all for being here. I really appreciate it. I am going to go ahead. Our team is going to continue to be here. So we are going to hang out, answer questions. You're welcome to come talk to me, to Anne, to Blanca, to Marcy. We have William. We have a number of different people here that are happy to continue to answer questions. So please feel free to come talk to us. Please feel free to email us, and we really appreciate you all being here tonight.
Thank you for taking the time for being here, for all of your questions and your thoughtfulness. And like Sarah has said, we are committed to hearing from everyone. As it's been pointed out, that isn't a given. It doesn't have to be part of the process. But we are committed to loving our neighbor, and that's all of our neighbors. So thank you for being here, and look forward to connecting with all of you.